Gosling and me, Ben Brown. The headlines for you. It's exactly 11:30.
Europe's first digital autopsy centre has been opened for business in the UK, with post-mortem examinations being carried out using 3D scanners. The service is offered by a private company in Sheffield at a cost of nearly £500, with demand driven by communities who find the conventional autopsy process distressing on religious grounds. The BBC Asian Network's Shabnam Mahmood reports.
News just reaching us from Scotland Yard that police are to begin formal interviews, they're saying, with the 3 women who were rescued from a house in South London last week. Police saying the evidential interviews will not be conducted at a police station, but they say at a suitable place.
So we'll bring you more on that as we get it. Now, hundreds of British service personnel have lost their lives fighting in Afghanistan, and many others have returned home with devastating injuries.
Well, earlier this year, the Ministry of Defence set aside more than £6.5 million to guarantee that all serving and former members of the armed forces had access to the most up-to-date prosthetics. Our correspondent John Maguire is at Headley Court Rehabilitation Centre in Surrey for us, finding out how that extra money and the latest technology is helping.
Now, in a moment, we'll have a summary of the business news this hour, but first, the headlines on BBC News.
Thank you, Susanna. Some news coming into us that James Baines, who tweeted images that purported to be of James Bulger's killer, John Venables, as an adult, has received a 14-month suspended jail sentence for contempt of court. This is at the High Court. So this is James Baines, who tweeted images supposed to be James Bulger's killer, John Venables, as he looks as an adult, getting a 14-month suspended jail sentence for contempt of court.
Let's get some more on the news that we brought you just a little while ago, that Liam Adams, the brother of Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams, has been sentenced to 16 years in prison for the rape and indecent assault of his daughter. It seems extraordinary when you describe the way politics came into this case. Thanks, Andy. Fled to Mexico. He's been found guilty now of running a fresh smuggling operation from his new home. Guildford Crown Court heard that cocaine had been smuggled into Southampton, hidden in bathroom sinks and furniture. Alan Sibley was jailed in 2001 for possession and supply of drugs, but he walked out of Ford Open Prison in 2005, and using false identities he fled to Cancun in Mexico. He was then extradited and charged. That just through to us.
Now, headlines coming up for you in a moment. We're also going to have Prime Minister's questions live from the Commons and full analysis of that. Let's check out the weather prospects, and Nick Miller's got all the details for us. Hi, Nick. This is BBC News, the headlines at midday.
Let's get more on David Cameron's promise to make it harder for migrants from the European Union to get access to Britain's welfare system. The Prime Minister says the migrants won't qualify for jobless benefits until they've been here for 3 months, nor will they get instant access to housing benefit. But an EU Commissioner has accused Mr Cameron of an unfortunate overreaction and says the UK risks being seen as the nasty country. More then about the treaty obligations that you've received reassurances on. Does that mitigate against any of the restrictions that David Cameron is talking about, particularly on benefit? So is it possible to predict how many will come here? There seems to be a disparity on the predictions. One anti-immigration research group here saying 50,000 set to arrive in each of the next 5 years. That's Bulgarians and Romanians. And in terms of the way that immigration is being talked about in this country at the moment, what are your thoughts on that? We're hearing Employment Commissioner and others in Europe warning that Britain's running the risk of looking like the nasty country. He wants the debate to go in the future with new restrictions to be brought in because he says that currently countries with a lower GDP, when they accede to the EU, it's inevitable that people will want to come to this country, and he wants that looked at. Do you think that that's a fair point to be making? Valentin Dimitrov, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Well, then.
Coming up here on BBC News in the next few minutes, we will get the latest from the Prime Minister, David Cameron, who's calling for curbs on migration within the EU.